Hello. Thanks for joining us. We are live. We're live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube, and we're live on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us. It's great you're here. I'm with Jon Lightfoot. Jon, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much. Glad to be here with you today.
You're over in California, and you are the founder and CEO of Strategic SEO Solutions, SSS for short. How long has SSS been around?
Oh, we've been around just about almost 2 years now.
Wow. And before that, what were you doing prior to that, and how did you get into SEO?
Yeah, I've been a student of SEO for, almost 18 years. I've got about a decade of brand side experience and a decade of agency experience. And I was working with the marketing, running the marketing team there over with Mathnasium. And so prior to this, and stewarding the local and geo and global SEO for their 1,000 centers.
Yeah, and you've worked with a number of different Fortune 500 companies, a number of different startups. Today, we're going to be talking about link building. We're going to be talking about domain authority, the do's and don'ts. We're also going to talk about how to properly craft a strategy to boost your domain authority. So those are the key things that we're going to be talking about. If you're watching and you're live with us right now, please feel free to ask questions if you've got any questions for myself or for Jon. If you're listening, it's brilliant that you're here. We won't be live if you're listening on the pod, but it's great that you're here, and thanks for being a fab listener. So, Jon, let's talk about, I'm going to throw this out there straight away. Is link building dead? I mean, link building has been around for years. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day, and they say we need to start changing the wording and calling it link earning, but that's a whole nother story, and we might get onto that. But is link building dead?
It is a great question that you ask, and I would have to say, kind of in a unique lens through this, is that yes. It is dead in some iterations. It's an evolution, and it's in an evolved state. So maybe some of the early approaches that would be deemed a bit antiquated, that could be viewed as dead. However, from those ashes, the resurrected approaches today are very much alive, and they very much help brands to thrive and certainly finesse rankings.
And why do we still need links? What's going on behind the scenes that the fact that just Google still relies on it?
Yes. Well, I often have said lately that building authority builds brands, and I think it really truly does come down to that. So the link building, and to your point, it is referred to in different ways today. Sometimes I usually just refer to it as link acquisition. It's a process of acquisition, and the approach, though, we can speak about, but the end result is ideally the same, which is simply that we're building authority, and the authority builds trust. And with skepticism for most every company at all-time high, trust is absolutely impactful, not only transactionally, but for Google as well.
And the fact of the matter here is that, as I was saying, Google still uses this as a clear metric, because it's only got so many metrics to go on, and clearly this is one that still stands out for them, that helps them understand relevancy, context, and, as you say, authority. In fact, you say that you suggest that authority is the new currency.
Correct.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Thank you. So here's, this is just a somewhat of an analogy, if you will, a little anecdotal, but nonetheless, this is the way that I look at it. And I look at it this way because I believe this is how Google looks at it. When we think about SEO, maybe starting with the notion of on-site technical, there's always some work to be done, and ideally websites are healthy, and the on-site technical components are in check or under evolution, and they're constantly being managed. So let's assume for a moment that has happened, that the website has been properly optimized. And so in doing so, beyond the page experience and the site speed, in optimizing the site, what have we really done? We've helped Google crawl it properly and index it. But as you suggested, understand kind of that semantic kind of contextual nature about who we are, what we do, who we serve, what's the core demo, what's the value props, all that's happening, right, through this on-site technical fortification. Now, here's my point and how it folds back into your question. Once that has occurred, what happens next? So now Google understands, let's just look at the keywords for a moment. Which keywords, let's say, are most impactful to us that we believe, right? They understand, they make note of it, they hear us. I don't believe at that point they truly care, though. And maybe care isn't the right word, but they're not going to put weight behind it in which to propel us to garner impression share. It's when other people talk about us in the same way, or they connect with us using anchors and keywords that are semantically or contextually or thematically related or identically related to what we're saying on site, where Google starts to say, okay, I heard you tell me that these keywords were important. I heard that. But now I'm starting to care because other people are telling me the same thing. And that's where we start to harness not only that trust that's coming outside, but the signals coming from their sites as well. Like their own trust and authority gets imparted then, like a fingerprint, back to the brand, back to the website.
Yeah, and I like the analogy because you can have the best website in the world, you can optimize the hell out of it, but if you're not then sending external signals about the website and traffic to the website, then half of it's not there, is it? So half of the puzzle, should I say, is not there. I can see there's quite a few people watching on LinkedIn right now. If you've got questions, please do ask. We're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of building a good domain authority and of link building. We're going to talk about strategies of link building, how to build that domain authority, how to win organic search and impression share. And so those are the things that we're going to be focusing on. So we've decided that link building is still very important, extremely important, and I fully get it, fully buy into it. What are some of the strategies in terms of earning links, of acquiring links? What are the things that we need to be thinking about, and which direction do you typically take your clients in when you go for a link building strategy?
Well, I think the first component to this is I have a sense that there's a large segment of companies that do understand the value of link building. But the concern I find first and foremost is that it then becomes almost a box that gets ticked. In other words, are you building links? It's yes or no. And they're ticking yes, building links, or we'll hire someone to build links. Building links for the sake of building links is simply just, well, it's not a strategy. And it's a tactic, but not a strategy. So the first component to properly building links is to have a definitive strategy. And that is bespoke. In other words, it varies from company to company, what that strategy might look like, partially depending upon the goals of the effort. But it starts typically with a keyword research, an audit, and a pairing or a mapping of the anchors to the pages, so that we're not injecting cannibalization and we're actually it's supporting the page, the keyword, and helping to propel the ranking. So the first part is to actually have a definitive strategy. So then the next part is discerning, we have the strategy, and so what is the approach? And in the approach, the very most important part that I can share today is simply this. It is no longer a quantitative effort. It is completely qualitative. And so many companies, so many SEOs, so many marketing professionals, when we chat, what we're really talking about is, maybe we need 5,000 links, 10,000 links. I was looking at competitors; they have 247,000 links, and we have 800, or we have 1,200. So we only need 198,000 links left. It really isn't like that today, and that folds back to my earlier comment about some of the earlier notions dying off. Today, it is about this qualitative nature. And so and one more thing, it's also about consistency. And so this is just kind of foundational structure to strategy, but consistency. I can't tell you how many link builders I talk to who may be steward clients or, these sorts of things. And they think, well, we have a goal of 10, 20, 25 links in a month. So they attack it, they garner 20, 25 links. Maybe that takes a week, right? And then they go dark for the rest of the month. And then the next month they do it again. That is not natural. There's not consistency in that. So part of the structural foundation is ensuring that it's a consistent, ongoing outreach and link acquisition. And so that begins to set up a structure from which everything else can be built. So there's that component. But I think your greater question, of course, is strategically. So what are some of the ways? And frankly, there's so many different ways. There's the standard, guest posting and sharing of sponsored posts, those sorts of things. And we can talk about that. That is effective if done appropriately, but it should only be a part of the strategic, initiatives. There should definitively be link insertion. That's another caveat, though. That can go right and go very, very wrong. So that we could talk about. But the reclamation links. So this kind of unlinked brand mentions, that's a very effective approach. Reaching out for no follow, switching to do follow, skyscraper techniques.
So let me just interject there. So a few things really. So sure. How important is follow versus no follow?
Well, I think it's healthy and natural to have some of both. So it isn't the mad rush to flip them all over. It's okay. It's okay to have both. But when I look at it, when my team and I look at it, what we're really thinking about is, are there gems? Are there diamonds in the rough out there? Are there sites that are, very much leading the way in thought leadership, that have strong metrics, the DA, right? That overarching domain authority, sure. But beyond that too, it's just a very, very strong metric site. And it's a no follow. I think reaching out to some of those golden opportunities and seeking that do follow is certainly prudent.
But was I also hearing there that if you've got if it's a high metric site, it's a really great site, the fact that it's a no follow is not a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, because it's better to be there and have no follow than not be there at all. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still traffic that can be garnered out of it. There's still ways to leverage it.
Do you believe that Google's got because the way you're talking, I just want to capture that. Do you believe that Google's got quite a weighting on follow and follow and no follow then?
Well, they do. I mean, it's the do follow links are going to certainly have more value. There's no doubt about it. Okay. But they are also noticing and able to crawl and determine that there's mentions on the no follow, but they're no follow. It's literally the site indicating to Google that they're not passing that over to you. So it's if you can harness that and flip it into a do follow, it's a better practice.
You talked about link insertions. Just to explain what those are.
Yeah. So link insertions is, if done right, is really this research of finding content that already exists, that's already ranked, and that is speaking thematically about what the inserted anchor would be about. So if you're linking back to a company that sells shoes, maybe it's an article about the 2022 trends in shoes or something like that. And so you've done the research, you've found the content, it's coming from a very strong, trusted site, it's already indexed, already ranked, and then you reach out editorially and request that your link is inserted into that content. So that's link insertion, niche inserts, and they're very, very effective if done properly. The caveat there is a lot of times it's not necessarily properly done.
And well, what are the don'ts then around that? So where is it not done correctly, and what are the things to look out for in terms of a good link insertion versus a bad one, or maybe the process that's done?
Yeah, so it's finding the right type of content is literally only half the battle. Ideally, the link should be coming from, obviously trusted sources. A lot of times and this really goes for most any strategy. I'll see links that are being built by other companies, or a company will come in and have me audit their backlink profile. What we'll find, let's say for sake of argument, is that the website has a strong DA. It's a DA 55, it's a 62, but we don't peel back the layers to then get deeper and understand, well, what is the citation flow? What's the trust flow? What's the spam score? I feel like nobody's even talking about that. I've talked to agencies all over the world in the last 2 weeks, and nobody was talking about spam scores. And when we just did a high level audit, it was so many of this needed remediation. So let's say though that the metrics are right. Here's what goes wrong on the link inserts. let's just pick an example. Maybe again, we'll just stick with the shoe company. They're selling shoes. They want to get into fashion, lifestyle. That would be right. But what we'll find is that there's PBNs, like private blog networks, and there's sites that are just built for links. And sure, they might have an article on fashion, but if we look out higher level and we see their nav structure, they have technology and CBD and casinos and everything else too. And it would be far better to narrow in, not just on the article itself, not just on the blog you're being injected into, but what is the overarching lens from the website as a whole? Are they really speaking to the industry, or are they trying to be everything to everybody for the sake of selling links, but building links? That's one of the big problems is that we look and we say, but the article is great. It's very thematically contextual. We did the research. Yeah. But what about the site? And so that's a part of it. The next part of it too is just injection. How is it injected? I can't tell you how many times, I'm sure I'll see it again today and tomorrow too, where I'll see, okay, it's a great site. Okay. Good metrics, good, the content's right. The demo's right. Everything's right. But how did you insert the link? Does it make any sense grammatically or otherwise within the sentence? Is it properly injected in a way for readability and that quality lens around any of that? I just saw one the other day, and it was looking at it. It was about fences and for a garden, and it was literally like, if it's a hot summer day, garden fence, you should wear sunscreen. And it's like, you can't just bolt it in there anywhere, And so I think there has to be a bridge, a bridge. And then the link back needs to have a soft landing too, to contextually connect all of it.
What do you mean by soft landing?
So if the link is talking about, shoes again, let's say it's a red pair of running shoes. That's what the link is about, right? Getting very granular, a little bit more long tail, getting in that. Then the link should come back to the page about the red running shoes and not land on like a, I don't know, an FAQ page or a privacy policy or just some other product. It really should have that connectivity.
Yeah. Or even, or I guess the mistake there would be the homepage. So if you're going deep for a red training shoe or whatever, then it doesn't make contextual sense to just be linking to the homepage. You'd need to link to at least a product page there. So we've talked about link inserts and some of the do's or don'ts around that. Another question I had though around that was, you've got these big sites that cover all industries and sectors and whatever else. One question would be, how have they deserved that? And they're just built for selling links. How have they built that domain authority? And is there a real question? Does that throw a question around how trusted domain authority is?
Yes. There's no, I don't think there's any mystery around the fact that domain authority can be artificially inflated. It can be. These sites that earn their living just simply on the back of selling links, they know that domain authority is going to get them on the radar and sell more links. So they do what they need to do in order to inflate that number, which is usually garnering a lot of other backlinks, and they invest heavily in that, and then they earn their money back and then some through selling links. But that's why I always say, domain authority, that overarching DA, which is really, this metric that's generated by Moz and their algo, that's a starting point. But we must look deeper. It is an onion that needs to be peeled back. It really is. It's
one metric.
Yeah, only
one of many.
Yes, right. And really what we need to be doing is using that maybe as a starting point, sure, but now getting deeper, right? Yep. Looking at what's the PA, that interior page authority, kind of cross-filtering and making sure that we're seeing those same sort of trust metrics flow through into some of the other domain authority algos like the DR from Ahrefs.
So you find the perfect content, the perfect domain. Talk to me about the outreach and the strategy there. I mean, there's lots of tools that you can automate this. Is that something that works? What are some of the do's and don'ts on outreach?
Well, I think outreach works best when it's natural. The problem there, of course, is scale. So let's set scale to the side for just a moment. Because again, to me, this is really more about a qualitative approach. So it's really best in a natural capacity, which means that you actually craft an email that matters, that's real. And sure, we can all use our templated messages that get the conversation started, and I don't see a problem with that. But once the conversation has started, it really should be a real, back and forth with the website owner or the journalist or the editor, whomever we're working with. So yes, there are plenty of tools, and SEMrush even has some great opportunities built straight into it. And there's others too. There's a lot of tools. But at scale, it's great to do that. But I have seen that the response coming back out of those canned, blasted messages is far, far lower, and sometimes lead to more dead ends too. Because once the conversation really begins, we find that we're not as well aligned. So we do a lot of outreach. It really is just manual emails, contacts with something real to say, to actually communicate why. Why would this link matter? Why would their audience care? You see, if the website doesn't care who comes in, then the quality is in question to me automatically. They should care, and they should want there to be value in what you're bringing. This isn't just about a financial transaction, although I would like to talk about the paid link concept. But it isn't just about that. It should be about value, and it should be about getting into the narrative and in the journey of their audience in a way that helps them and brings value to the piece of content.
Makes sense. Talk about the paid link concept then.
Well, it's just so often there's conversations around. So, are these links purchased? Are you buying links? Should we buy links? How much should we pay for buying? And the one element there that I think is really impactful in today's space is simply this: if the website really cares, if they're really trying, if it really is about value and offering a great experience to users, then to ask them to communicate with you, to ideate with you, to bring a link into their content, right? Crack it open, edit it, usually create some other layer of content to bridge your link in, or even if you give it to them, they have to read it, consider it, inject it, modify it, republish it. And to think that they're going to do that all for free, I just don't. I think that we have to respect the time and value of the owners and editors of these websites to understand that sure, there should be some cost involved. And I don't think that diminishes the quality of the link. So I don't think we have to have an aversion to, did we pay for links? I think what we have to do is just make sure that the link is of great value and quality, and also respect the time of those website owners.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just thinking there's a number of news sites that I'm aware of where we're going to get onto digital PR in a moment, but where you've got some PR, but to have a link, you've got to pay for the link. So, and they're really just very open about it, and great piece of PR here, great story, but if you want that link, it's got to be paid. Is there some kind of danger there that they could be flagged as, I don't know, what's your experience of that, of news sites that offer, you can have a link, but it's got to be paid?
Well,
or John, have you just answered the question perhaps?
Well, to a degree, I think when we're talking about potentially brand equity, so if we're talking about major news portals that are respected all over the world, so yes, if you're going to have a voice in that space, definitively you should have some skin in the game. There should be an investment to that. They know the lift to your trust, to your authority, and there's certainly value in that. So I think they're just trying to price the value to the organization that's going to be involved in their content. That's a bit of a broad stroke answer. In other words, it really does need to be evaluated site by site, portal by portal, and exactly how they're planning to inject the link. And if it's no follow or do follow, and is it tagged as sponsored? I mean, so there's a lot of caveats that go into this, but yes, without naming names, I do see this often.
And I can only assume that if it is tagged as sponsored, then that's not going to help.
Correct. So not going to help if we talk about it from the lens of, a very solid backlink, helping to bolster kind of that overarching domain authority. But What is domain authority? Really, frankly, it's trust. It's trust, and it can certainly help with trust, depending, again, if this is a portal that's very much, has a strong reputation already ahead of itself, and they're imparting their trust by pointing to you, by giving you the mic effectively, by letting you be part of their ecosystem, the traffic, and that can help.
So all of this is reminding us of it's all about the context and about the quality.
Right.
And
Yes.
and actually, just because it's sponsored, if it's in one of the best websites in the world, who cares?
Right.
Because Google knows, and Google also knows that the fact that you're even in there must be ticking some boxes.
Correct. And that's from the segmentation of Google, which you're right about that. And then from the lens of the consumer, it's certainly building your own brand authority, your own, and giving you some thought leadership and some inherent trust. And so that all has value. Yeah.
And okay, so just moving on to digital PR, I've always said that link building is basically PR, but online. It's nothing, because it's all about relationships, and it's all about, and if you look at all the different types of links there's some kind of relationship in it to try and get that link, whatever that relationship is. But what's your lens of digital PR, and what are the opportunities inside there?
Yeah, so digital PR definitely, for me, this is something that's real, and prudent, should be part of every strategy now, and is, I think, for 2022 also going to be very, very much epicenter in what people are doing. Digital PR really is harnessing kind of that press, the authority of journalists, digitally, could be, and podcasts are definitely a massive component to that. Other components to that are, the news portals like you're speaking to, and just about every trusted, magazine and other, type of media and press has a segment online as well. And so it's tapping into those veins. For the digital PR that I'm managing and my team's managing, what we're looking at, definitely, podcasts are incredible. It's an opportunity to have a voice. It's an opportunity to engage with new audiences. It's an opportunity to garner a link, frankly, back as well. So there's trust happening, authority happening in that natively. But beyond that, it's not just talking; it's listening. If we listen, there is a tremendous amount of inbound communication coming from the journalists now, reaching out to the world around them, saying, we have a piece, here's an article. We need somebody who has, a quote that they can share because they're an expert in the space, or we're looking for something to talk about just about every industry. This is happening now. So if we listen, we can respond to the journalists and get involved in their pieces, their digital PR, their content. And that's a phenomenal way, not only to build your thought leadership, trust and authority, but to also garner backlinks at the same time. It's certainly a bifurcated value. So it's very opportunistic.
What any quick tips on some of the approaches or some of the types of digital PR that you're talking, or maybe the method?
Yes. Well, so this would be just kind of a quick tip. There's a lot of different sources out there today. It's growing, but Haro is one that I think a lot of people know about. Some leverage it, some don't, but they know about it. I think it's growing in popularity. It's been around a long time, but people are anyway. So Haro is a situation where you can sign up to receive emails 3 times a day, literally morning, noon, and night, where the journalists, and you can categorically select what is this? Is it about business? Is it about fat? Is it about fitness? And there's different categories. So you can lifestyle. You can pick it. Then they send the emails to you, and it'll have roll up a list of a lot of opportunities, and you can find a way to inject yourself into those opportunities. And the way you do it is you respond. And if your response is newsworthy or credible, they will pick you up, quote you, and you will find yourself landing directly in the vein of their communication, which is usually, if not in print, in press, it's just about always online. And so as far as tips are concerned, credibility. It really comes down to that. When you're being quoted in the press, they're looking for a credible source. They're looking for someone who brings their own lens of authority. So it's not just about, oh, yes, here's my opinion. It's about, here's my opinion and here's why it matters. And so backing into your credentials, even if that's just from a space of education or your background or your role within an organization, it's coupling those two together.
So for people listening or watching, HARO, help a reporter out. It's a blast from the past. I've not used it for quite a while, and it's interesting that it reminds me that it's there, and it makes me want to go back and look at it. So thank you for that tip. I'm very grateful of that. So if you want to gain organic search impression share, what are the things that everybody should start doing today? What's the 2 or 3 things that everyone needs to start doing if they want to get more organic share?
That's a great question, and it's a very complex answer, but I'll do my best to crystallize it down and do just a couple of quick things. So think about it as an ecosystem. Just think about it as an ecosystem. It needs to be nurtured. If it's not balanced in your approach to garnering more organic market share, it's like baking a pie. I mean, if you leave an ingredient out, it'll still come out, but it'll be flat, or it just won't come out right. It might be too soft. So for me, I always think about it like this: make sure your technicals are in check. And maybe another way to say that is make sure your algos are in check. Make sure you're in algorithmic compliance. And how do you crystallize that down? Think about page experience. Think about site speed. Think about spam, because that was there's 4 spam algos that happen. Get your site healthy. So let's just say that that's done. So that's your first kind of on-site component. Build links. But do it right. Don't just build for the sake of building. Really do organic outreach. Really garner acquisitions in places that matter, that are contextual. Build your trust and your authority, and content. And this is something we didn't talk about, but I just want to say content, it's still king. Somebody said, I'd have to look it up, but just like content's king, but engagement is queen, and she wears the pants. There's a speaker that talks about that. And it's a great point. And I think that's the key here too. Don't just do content for the sake of content. It has to be real, meaningful, and it has to have, this last thing I'll say, it has to have the art, which is the writer who creates this wonderful content, and the science behind it, why it should matter. How is it going to rank? What are we doing for the SEO components of that? What do the alts look like? The H1, the H2 through H6. How is it set up to rank? If you have the right content with the right science behind it and a fantastic writer, that content will definitively help to propel you.
Yeah, I like those tips, and very succinct, to be fair. So really good. For me, this is a really just good reminder that link building is still absolutely necessary, and it's all about the quality, not the quantity. Jon, absolutely brilliant. You the type of clients that you work with, my understanding is it's sort of mid-stride to full potential, where they've sort of been going a little while. They really understand that they need to invest in this, and they're really eager to get to their full potential. Typically, am I right? It's sort of 50 to 200 staff, that sort of size of business across all verticals. Is that have I got that detail right, Jon?
That is all correct. Yes, absolutely.
Because if you are an owner of that business, a CEO, a head of marketing, a director in that business, and you're wanting to really increase your link building, then you need to speak to Jon Lightfoot from SSS. So thank you very, very much indeed. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And Jon, thanks for being so open and sharing your strategies with us. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. So take care. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Johnny.